Last year, I unboxed the ATC Class A Portable P2 amplifier. It was a surprising find on Amazon and one I am very pleased with. Some reviewers will happily recommend products from unknown brands without giving them a thorough test. The audiophile world has so many liars, cheats, thieves, and false prophets that we need to be very careful about suggesting any product, whether from a known brand or an unknown brand. This is why I spent 5 months testing the ATC amplifier, and now I have a conclusion. The ATC amplifier is a solid piece of gear that does exactly what the manufacturer says. It is fairly priced, it is well built, it is simple. Unfortunately, it is difficult to buy the ATC amplifier. There is, however, an exact alternative, which I will talk about at the end. ATC's portable amplifier is a serious piece of kit. It is made of aluminum. There's not a strip of plastic anywhere to be seen or touched. The toggle switches on the side are for gain, screen on and off, and power, and they're all made of metal. The volume knob is also metal. The OLED screen is, of course, glass. The amp has a charge port at the bottom for DC power input. It has a headphone output and a source input via 3.5mm connections. And that's it. This is not a DAC and it is not balanced. And that is fantastic. Simplicity just works. Anytime a company overcomplicates a product, they add more weak points. Simplicity is also beautiful. Some companies try very hard to make their products look different. Astel and Kern comes to mind. But the more such companies try to be visually different, the more they alienate the target market. Simplicity keeps the product relevant. A product that is a jack of all trades is typically a master of none. Being excellent at one specific task is sometimes more beneficial than barely accomplishing many. The ATC amplifier is simplicity at work. Its lack of complexity is a good thing. At first, I was disappointed it does not have a USB DAC function, but I was looking at the product with the wrong perspective. I have DACs. I have too many damn DACs. So why do I need another one? All I really wanted was a clean, powerful, portable amplifier for my DAPs, which already have excellent DACs. But that got me thinking about those who don't have a portable DAC or think they might want to upgrade. For those people, I still think an amplifier alone is still a viable option instead of a DAC-amp combo. People often ask me if they should upgrade their DACs. They want to know if adding the AudioQuest Cobalt to the LG V30 or V40 would improve the sound, or whether they should buy a desktop DAC as an alternative to the dedicated PCI sound card in their PC. I usually caution people against making such purchases. There are some relevant facts I've discovered through my audiophile journey. Fact 1. If your device has an objectively good DAC, it will still be an objectively good DAC many years down the line. Upgrading to a better DAC from a good DAC is a slippery slope manufacturers and hype men want you to fall down. Newer DACs promise higher source decoding and a more professional sound, which is of course a questionable benefit for most audiophiles. Fact 2. Although DAC manufacturers have different sound signatures from each other, the sound signature of DAC models within a single manufacturer usually does not change. In other words, although Burr Brown and Sabre DACs sound different, the differences between the Burr Brown 1702, the 1704, and the 1792 are not going to be significant. The same goes for Sabre and AKM and Wolfson. Yes, sometimes a company using the DACs will alter the tuning slightly. The most recent Sabre chips, for example, are less harsh and more neutral than their predecessors, but they all still have a very similar sound signature. Fact 3. Amplification will make a much bigger difference to your headphones than DACs ever will. Your headphone drivers will perform differently because of amplification alone. A $500 DAC amp with the latest hyped DAC is not particularly worthwhile if its amplification output is only in the double digits. All of these facts lead to an unimpeachable conclusion. If you're happy with your DAC, then amplification is all you should think about. In the case of the ATC amplifier, it has a very specific role to play. If you have a good source, say the LG V30 or any modern DAP, then the ATC offers significant amplification. And as I said before, amplification will render a more meaningful difference in sound quality than DACs alone. Thus, the fact that the ATC does not have a DAC functionality is of no merit. Those who are looking for a DAC amp combo have many other good alternatives. So, we talked about why the ATC is relevant even though it does not have a DAC. But does the ATC perform as promised? In order to answer that question, we have to know what the promises are. ATC's claims might make a lot more sense in the original Japanese, but translated to English, the claims are head-scratchingly confusing. For example, they say that the amplifier is, quote, traditional analog circuit, looks like a vacuum tube amplifier taste and style. What I assume they mean is that the amplification sounds like a tube amplifier. ATC also claims that the amplifier is made of high-end materials and has an amplification of 2.6 watts at 32 ohms. I think the claims about the build and output are accurate. The build is fantastic. I've had this amp for 5 months and have used it at home, at work, and on the go. I am typically careful with my gear and use the ATC as I would any other component. There's not a scratch on the device after 5 months. The volume knob turns just as smoothly as when I first opened the box. The OLED screen is as bright as ever. The toggle switches are still sturdy. The ports show no wear. In short, the build is exceptional. The amplification is something I cannot measure objectively. I could not find any ASR measurements for this device. What I can say is that the ATC drives every single headphone I have. The Modhouse Argon gets plenty of power on high gain, enough so that around 50% volume, the telltale rumble and bass impact of the Argon comes right through. My Beyerdynamic T1 2nd Gen are 600 ohm. These too are easily driven on high gain. There is plenty of room to spare. The ATC can drive any normal impedance headphones. Thus, your 32 ohm Grado SR80E will get overwhelming amplification, and the same is true for the 150 ohm HD660S. The claim that the ATC sounds like a tube amplifier is not quite accurate. I don't know what ATC is actually trying to convey, but the amplifier is not a tube amplifier in any sense. I have used the ATC with my Sony DAPs, the LG V30, the Opus No. 2, and many other devices. It appears that the ATC will add just a tiny bit of bass boost. Otherwise, I think the amplification is fairly neutral. Tube amps come in many variations, and mostly bad ones. I know of only 2 decent portable tube amplifiers, the Little Bear B4 series and the Fostex HP V1. The Fostex is the king of portable tube amplification, providing a slight smoothness to the sound signature and a noticeable bass boost. The ATC, by comparison, is neither the B4 nor the Fostex. The ATC does not have the tube harmonics that are the bane of the B4 series. The B4 also has some graininess to the sound signature attributes of the tubes. The ATC does not have the smoothing effect of the Fostex. Furthermore, the ATC's bass boost is less than that of the Fostex. The ATC is also noiseless. It is silent to any full-sized headphones. I suspect if you used ultra-sensitive IEMs, you might hear some noise, but then you're simply hunting for negatives. Thus, the claim that the ATC sounds or tastes like a tube amplifier are not quite accurate. There is some similarity with portable tube amplifiers. The ATC is similar to the tube amplifiers just like iOS is similar to Android. They both do similar things but are not the same. So, am I ready to say that ATC's claims about the sound are lies? No. As I said previously, I think this has much to do with the poor translation. All you need to know is that the ATC does not have a totally neutral amplification, but neither does it overly color the sound. Someone might argue that the ATC should have been balanced because of the amplification numbers. I have to constantly correct people about this misunderstanding. Balanced inputs and outputs are beneficial only if the amplifier's topography is poorly implemented. We have repeatedly seen amplifiers that do not have balanced signal perform no differently from balanced amplifiers. Yes, there are exceptions to this rule, but not many. Moreover, if your source has a clean signal out, the fact that it is transmitted over 3.5mm and not a balanced cable into a balanced circuit is of little merit. A good comparison, I think, is against the overly hyped Oriolus BA300S. I compared that tube amplifier to the B4X and was very unimpressed. The BA300's balanced topography was pointless since the tubes inside the unit added noise to the signal anyway. The point is that having balanced for the sake of balanced is nothing to be proud of. Instead, I'm more impressed with non-balanced amplifiers that control the noise to inaudible levels. The ATC does not require balanced signal. Connect it to any source and plug in your headphones. You won't hear any noise. Play your audio and you won't hear noise or distortion. Who is the ATC for? Well, think of it this way. Who needs amplification? Every year, DAP manufacturers release a newer version of last year's model, with the amplification being the material alteration. You go from the standard version to the Pro version, and the $600 you spent last year now just seems a little silly. But this should not be the case. Let us assume that you buy a DAP that meets your requirements. It has a user interface you like, Android or proprietary, it doesn't matter, and it has all the features you need. Let us also assume you like the DAP and its sound signature, but the amplification is limited. Do you purchase the Pro version of the device next year, getting stuck in the constant upgrade loop? Or do you buy an amplifier? There is a cost-benefit analysis for each person. Some will say that they would rather upgrade. Others will say they would rather have an amplifier. My position is this. If you are happy with the DAP and only need amplification, then an amplifier makes more sense than buying a whole new DAP next year. The ATC fills that niche. Sony DAPs, for example, are notoriously underpowered. They are fine for IEMs, but connect any headphone and you will immediately notice the DAP's limitations. Whether it is the NW-A55, ZX507, or WM1A, I'm typically flustered with Sony's lack of amplification for my headphones. That's why the ATC is relevant. Connected to my Sony DAPs, the ATC provides plenty of amplification. The same can be said for something like the LG V30. It has an excellent DAC. These phones can be purchased for less than $100 on eBay, and if you're willing to live with some screen burn, you can find them for around $50. But the V30 lacks amplification. If you plug the ATC into the V30, you get a powerful DAP that is about the same size as some hi-fi DAPs, except that you get more amplification than any DAP for the price of the ATC V30 combo. In other words, the ATC is the amplifier I would choose for creating my own DAP system. If you want to get out of the constant upgrade bubble, then this is a key factor in helping you achieve your freedom. I'll give you an example. For the last year, I have been acquiring older DAPs, which are hard to find. I purchased the Calyx M, KN-i5, iBasso DX50, 80, and 90, Opus No. 2, and Cowan P1. They all sound amazing, all with different sonic characters, but they all lack amplification for headphones. I bought the DX50 for about $70, the DX80 for about $100, the KN-i5 for about $200, and the Cowan P1 for around $300. I add the $160 ATC amplifier, and now I have the most powerful DAP system around. The most expensive pairing here is with the P1 and the ATC. The P1, as I said, was around $300, with the ATC at $160. Thus, for $460, I get greater amplification than the $1,300 FIO M15. For example, the M15 provides 800 milliwatts at 32 ohms on balanced high gain. Then there's the Astel & Kern Con Cube, which costs $1,500. It has up to 12 VRMS with no load, so you basically have little idea how well the Cube will perform with a given headphone. In all fairness, however, the Cube can drive most headphones. The point is that for $460, I still get more amplification than DAPs costing around $1,500. And instead of being stuck with a particular sound signature of a DAP, I have the freedom of switching to something else. If I want more amplification on a more neutral sound, then I can pair the ATC to the Opus No. 2. If I want a very warm sound signature, then I switch the KN-i5 and ATC combo. In other words, the ATC represents the freedom to choose at leisure. Do I recommend the ATC P2? Absolutely. The problem is that the ATC is hard to find in the United States. I have yet to find it on eBay. There might be a few left on Amazon UK. ATC has an online shop, but I have not yet used it and cannot verify if you will actually get your order. There is, however, an alternative. It is the Shylin iHi-Fi 100. It is available on Pen & Audio's website. I've reviewed the specs of the Shylin and the ATC, and they are identical. They are priced the same. They look identical, except that the Shylin version is silver. I do not have the Shylin, but I have a strong suspicion it is the exact same device as the ATC. For the last 5 months, I have looked for an alternative to the ATC. I cannot find one. More expensive amplifiers are, well, more expensive and provide much less power. I have given up on the search for a true competitor. If there is one, it's hidden on the internet. Yes, there is the topping NX4, which also has plenty of power to drive all headphones. The NX4 is the same price as the ATC and is readily available. But there is indeed a difference between the two. Although the NX4 can drive the Modhouse Argon and T1, it cannot drive each of these headphones to their fullest potential. In other words, you would get better performance from a desktop amplifier for these two headphones compared to the NX4. The ATC is the opposite of the NX4. This amp is capable of driving these hard-to-power headphones to their fullest potential. And the reason, I suspect, is because of the Class A amplification that the ATC provides. To some, this may not mean much. If you have normal impedance headphones, then the ATC is just overkill. Moreover, some will say that the topping provides more features for the same amount of money. If that is your analysis, then the ATC is not suitable for your use. But I am sure there are others who think as I do. The ATC's functionality is impressive, unique, and practical. The ATC P2 was a purchase made out of curiosity, and it was a good bet. It has excellent build, almost neutral sound, no hiss, noise, or distortion, and immense amplification, and the price is right. If you can find one of these or the Shylin, you might want to consider it.